door-to-door sales is a rough business, right? So we were hiring all sorts of people, hiring people from the bottom of the unemployment barrel sometimes, right? So being able to take someone that's sort of rough around the edges and and teach them this, skill and this way of being, of, going up to strangers' doors and, you know, being able to talk to them and not have anything that they say or do influence how you feel, or what, how the rest of your day is going, or what your mission is, what your targets are, achieving your targets. Like that for me was true power. And then being able to enable people to do that, as other people in my team to do that, was like the best feeling ever.
Welcome to the Founders Unmasked. Today's guest is Danilo Podrascanin. Danilo is the founder of Bella, an AI sales teammate that puts personality back into connecting with the buyer while coaching other teammates along the way. Danilo has a truly incredible story. He was born and raised in an immigrant family in Western Australia. He went into door-to-door sales at a young age, knocking on thousands of doors and meeting thousands of people. He tried his hand at enterprise sales and then finally found his true calling as a founder, becoming a pirate along the way. Danilo is a true underdog story. And what I learned from this episode is the power an underdog mentality can have on a person to drive them to do great things, and especially a founder. And also the importance of the transformation from being an underdog into being the hero. Will Danilo go through this transformation? Well, we find out in today's Founders Unmasked episode. Please join me in watching. Thank you.
Who are you?
It's a great question. If I was going to put it simply, I see myself as a bit of an underdog, I would say. I've always had an affiliation with underdogs, but I feel like, yeah, I'm an underdog. Why? Well, I'm a son of migrants that came to Australia and came from Serbia, and speak a lot of English, working class people. Grew up in a fairly rough suburb, and yeah, didn't always have the sort of opportunities that I wish I could have had. And
Why was it rough?
I mean, back then in the 2000s, it was the highest crime rate suburb in Perth in Western Australia.
What do you think? What did you get from growing up in a rough suburb? What was valuable about it?
The social skills, I would say. Like my school, the first day of high school, I counted there was like eight fights, and it was like welcome to high school, right? It was very, low demographic area, a lot of troubles. So for me, the most valuable thing was being able to navigate the social complexities within the school. And I found that I was able to connect with all sorts of people from different walks of life, whether you were a cool kid, the nerd, the outcast. I was able to get along with everyone, understand them, and get along with.
Were you just trying to survive?
In part, yes. Yeah, to survive, I would say. Was there a lot of room to thrive? Yeah, a bit, but mostly it was, yeah, quite challenging.
Were most of your friends underdogs?
I would say so, yeah. I mean, we all grew up sort of around the same suburb, or they were also, Serbian migrants who grew up in other suburbs.
Why do you think underdogs were attracted to each other? That sounds a bit unusual.
I don't know. I've always supported the underdog, even when I watch sports. You've got Manchester City, the big team that's got all the money, they've got all the best players in the world. and they're playing against, the team that's not as rich, but they've got a lot of heart, they've got a lot of strength. And for some reason, I've always supported them. Even sometimes against my own team, I've sort of felt something towards, the underdog, want them to win. I don't know why.
Right. Do people view you as an underdog?
Good question. I'm not sure. The people that grew up with me and know me, perhaps. People that met me might not know the journey that I've taken to get there.
Do you want to stay the underdog?
No. I guess that's the purpose of the underdog, isn't it? You start off as the underdog, and then you achieve a victory or victories.
Sometimes I think some people like to constantly put themselves in a position where they're the weaker opponent to see if they can beat a stronger one.
Well, I think it's definitely a better feeling when you've had to go through a lot of adversity and achieve something against the odds, for sure. And I can get why we'd go back to that. But I've done quite a lot of it, and yeah, I'd like to
How
get the
much
fruits of
longer
my
do you
labor.
want to be the underdog for? How much longer can you handle being the underdog?
Oh, I can handle it forever.
How do you know that?
Yeah, because that's all I've ever known.
Do you think your underdog character has become more of a dogged spirit?
Yeah, for sure.
Why?
Because you have to put up with so much. You go through so much, and you sort of get used to it, right? And you just push through it. And it's like after you've gone through so much stuff, so many times, you get used to it. You learn how to deal with it. You learn how to move past it and move forward and get to the next thing.
Right. Okay. What character do you want to play next after you stop being the underdog?
It's a great question. I'd like to be the one that helps the underdogs.
Right.
I'd like to be the one that
How would you like to help them?
spending time with them. Hopefully I get to a stage where, I've achieved what I set out to achieve with my business, and I can also support maybe even them financially. I'm not in the position to do that right now, but maybe one day I will be. So for now, I think it's a case of just spending time with them, inspiring them, trying to get them out of their small fish pond into a bigger fish pond.
Mm. And what skills do you need to learn to be able to be that character, do you think?
I don't know if it's skills more than freedom. I mean, I used to be a door-to-door salesperson, and I ran a team and started my own door-to-door sales business, and I felt a lot of that while I was building out my team. It was a case of
Why did you do that? Why did you start that company?
because I was really good at it. I worked for second largest door-to-door sales business in Australia and broke all the records for sales in a day, in a week, in a month, in a year. Was just really good at it, and I absolutely loved it. And then I transferred that passion into my team. And we were I mean, door-to-door sales is a rough business, right? So we were hiring all sorts of people, hiring people from the bottom of the unemployment barrel sometimes, right? So being able to take someone that's sort of rough around the edges and teach them this, skill and this way of being, of, going up to strangers' doors and, being able to talk to them and not have anything that they say or do influence how you feel or what, how the rest of your day is going. or what your mission is, what your targets are, achieving your targets. Like that for me was true power. And then being able to enable people to do that, as other people in my team to do that, was like the best feeling ever. Seeing someone go from, hardly finished high school to, rocking up to a door, super confident. They're able to, talk the talk. And yeah, I found that whole process of doing that just, a lot, like really rewarding.
So, as an underdog, door-to-door sales gave you freedom,
Freedom, yeah, freedom in my own mind.
right? When most people would consider that terrifying to do.
Oh, it is. It's absolutely terrifying.
What do you think's different about how you think about that? Where does that come from?
I mean, I was terrified. The first door I knocked on, I got 4 or 5 words in, and I paused. I got stuck. I was out of breath. I just completely shut down and just looked over to my teammate that was helping me out, and they just sort of took over.
Mm.
Yeah,
What do you think
and
would have happened if that person didn't take over? But you kept doing it?
yeah, I would have kept doing it. I think maybe because I knew that they were next to me. Maybe that's part of the reason why I stuttered and stopped and knew that I had a crutch next to me, basically.
Mm.
But yeah, absolutely, I was petrified my first few doors, but then after a few months of doing it, you're still petrified, but it gets to a point where you've done it so often, you've knocked on so many doors, you've talked to so many people. I did the math. I've spoken to 60,000 people face to face during that time, around 60,000. And after the first few hundred, you just get used to it. That fear just goes away, and you stop caring about what other people think of you, and you stop caring about how they feel about you. You just keep moving forward. You just don't let it affect you. I mean, I was like, skipping down the street practically, always happy, always jolly. And of course, you get some crazy doors, right? And people that say some nasty things and treat you in a bad way. But I got to a point where there was no situation that happened that sort of broke my attitude and made me want to go home or finish up for the day. I almost instilled this like goldfish mentality, where I was just like, that door exists for the period of time that I've knocked on it and spoke to the person, and after that, it just doesn't exist anymore to me. I'm on to the next one.
And how did you teach people how to do that? How to look at it as freedom versus fear?
Yeah, that's a really good question. It's very, very hard to teach. Some people obviously have this, I think, ability innately, like they were either born with it or they learnt it through some other means before I, was working with them. But the people that didn't, I mean, you're with them. You're with them at every door initially. You're sort of babying them initially, and helping them go through those conversations, go through those tough times. But I sort of help them put things into perspective, right? And it's like it's got nothing to do with you. The reason why someone treated you poorly because you knocked on their door has absolutely nothing to do with you. You shouldn't take it personally. And you have a purpose here. You're doing something good. We were raising money for charity, right? You're doing something good, so you shouldn't let it affect you. You should just focus on the good things about it. The negative things, of course, you need to learn from them. Maybe there is something you said or did that triggered this person, and you should learn from that. You should reflect on it. And I usually told them reflect on it between the doors. So from one door to the next, reflect on what you could have done better, or what you could have done differently. And at that point, when you start knocking at that next door, you internalize that and you forget about it, and you focus on that door, and you just repeat that process.
Okay. But it sounds pretty tricky.
Oh yeah, it's really tricky. But I guess after you do it so many times, it becomes a lot easier. Some people can't hack it. I mean, our turnover rate was ridiculous.
Underdogs are the ones that learn how to do it. Are they the most successful?
Not always. No, not always.
Okay. So it sounds like you've been an entrepreneur for quite a long time. Why did you choose to become a salesperson, a professional one?
Well, that's how I started. I was I was at home. I was actually supposed to go to university. It was the first day of uni. Um, and I wasn't sold on uni. I didn't want to do a course for 4 years and get stuck into, an accounting job for the rest of my life. But I was at uni because I didn't really know. I didn't really have purpose. I didn't know what I wanted to do. I was there because that was just what was expected of me and everyone else was doing it. But two door knockers knocked on my door the day that I skipped the first day of uni, and they pitched me, and I said, well, I'm not going to buy what you're selling, but I reckon I could do what you do. And I read all the stories about um, Tony Robbins and Warren Buffett, going out there and selling stuff face to face and door to door. And I thought, there's something there. It's a skill that's worth learning to be able to have the courage to walk up to a stranger's door and start a conversation and have a great conversation.
Mhm.
Um, that was something that I wanted to learn, and that's why I decided to get into it.
So why do you think you're so attracted to this idea of winning over a stranger?
It's a great question. I think ultimately it's you're connecting with other people, right? Um, and to be able to
But
to
why
be able to
strangers?
that's a good question.
Why are you so obsessed with strangers?
Well, because if you just stick with the people that you know, I mean, you're never really going to learn anything, are you? You're never really going to move beyond your little fish pond into a bigger one. You're just going to be stuck swimming around in the same place the whole time.
Why are you scared of that?
Um, so because I want to live. I want to experience as much as possible. I love hearing other people's perspectives, seeing the world through their view. It gives me an additional perspective, helps me understand other people better, but also helps me look at life in different ways.
Do strangers help you learn things that you don't know?
Yeah, absolutely.
Are they more valuable to you than a book?
Not necessarily. I think I get more joy out of it because it's, personally, you can't talk to a book. Um, you can't ask questions to a book. So in that sense, I got a lot more value. But I mean, I see the value in books too, right? Of course. But yeah, that you just can't interact with them.
What type of energy do you get from strangers?
Oh, all sorts, man. Um, like when I
What's
was
your
door knocking,
what's your favorite type of energy that you get from strangers? What's the favorite feeling that you get after you talk to a stranger?
uh, well, there's a few. Like the best, the most memorable like door-to-door experience I had were the people that like saw me walking up the driveway and like before I even said a word, would just start going off. No, no, I don't want anything to do with you. Just leave. And being able to turn that around from, that situation to having like actually engaging in a conversation and then having a really good conversation. And then the best is like when they're like, all right, well, actually you're onto something. Let me donate some cash. Like that was always the most, I think, rewarding interaction.
What and what's a really good conversation mean to you? Like, what happens to make it a really good conversation?
Um, when you express an idea, was usually, when you're the one approaching the stranger, you're the one that has to sort of lead with an idea or lead with a perspective, and then getting their feedback from that. That's what makes the conversation great. To be able to debate, to be challenged,
The
as well.
debate.
That yeah, sometimes it got into a debate.
Good. Okay, cool.
Yeah, and sometimes it was yeah, like an outright challenge. Like I don't believe in that. and then be able to talk through that, and find a common ground. Sometimes you don't, find a common ground and you sort of part ways, but it's amicable.
Mm.
And sometimes you do find a common ground, and those are always, great situations.
And do you think you're the first person in your family to be this type of person that, learns through dialogue and loves to engage strangers, or is this part of your ancestry?
Another great question. I've often actually asked myself this, because I mean, obviously, I don't know all of my ancestors, but I imagine I must have inherited it from somewhere. Um,
Mm.
I mean, I wasn't always like that. I mean, door to door taught me to do that really well. So in
Mm.
a way, I was morphed by, I was created by it. Um, but yeah, maybe there's something there in my heritage that has influenced me to be the way that I am.
Okay. So you're the underdog. You know you love to engage strangers, so you make a job out of it. And now you've started another, you've become an entrepreneur again, after being a salesperson. And what are
Yeah.
you trying to achieve right now? What are you being the underdog for? What are, what are you trying to achieve?
Yeah. So, well, my startup is Bella. Bella is an AI sales teammate. So you can think of it as an assistant, a coach, and what I've noticed with modern selling is that oftentimes it's very transactional, unpersonalized, and um, yeah, sellers are sort of gotten into this process, which has been shaped by the technologies, the sales technologies that have been around for the last 10 years, where they're selling in a very impersonalized way, in a very sort of paint by numbers way. And what
Mm.
we want to do is we want to help sellers understand their buyers a lot better, understand them on a individual level, from the perspective of their role in the business, what their goals are, what they want to achieve, but
Mm.
also from the perspective of or the context of what their business is. So we want to help them understand that. And we want to help them engage with those buyers in a more meaningful way, in a more effective way.
Okay. Um, cool. I'd love to spend a little bit more time on the pain point. You said technology has shaped them to work the wrong way. What did you mean by that? How has it shaped them the wrong way?
Yeah. So, I mean, if you look at sales engagement platforms, for example, I won't name them, but there's a variety of sales engagement platforms where basically they are the best practice, most adopted way to actually engage with your buyers, which is to use a bunch of templates and send out spam people with a bunch of emails, a bunch of touch points to get some type of engagement with them. And it's a very lazy approach to selling. It's a case of let's load in a bunch of contacts and let this system go out and just spam these people these messages, and whatever hits, and we'll deal with whatever hits. But there's nothing there that really resonates with the buyer. You might resonate with a handful of them, but for the most part, you're missing the mark because it's just based off of templates.
And why do you think that's the wrong approach?
Because there's so many ways to articulate, the value that you can deliver to someone, to make their lives easier, make their jobs better, make their business run smoothly. Um, there's so much better ways to articulate that than just sending out this, one templated message to all these different people, right? And you can't really articulate it without understanding who the person is that you're actually talking to. Like, who are you actually speaking with here? And how should I frame what I'm saying in a way that will help them understand how we can actually help them?
It sounds like that they never really get in dialogue because they're knocking on all the doors, all the windows, all the houses all at once.
Yeah, precisely. And then, yeah, you don't really get the chance to engage meaningfully. Um, most of the
Right.
most of the messages are just ignored, right?
Do you think they ever get into the debate that you love to chase with strangers that helps build trust?
I'm sure a very small percentage do, but for the most part, absolutely not. And people can read through it, right? I mean, you and I'm sure you do as well, like get so much outreach. As soon as I listed co-founder or founder on my LinkedIn, I've just been bombarded with all sorts of automated messages. And one in 1,000 will actually hit the mark and actually resonate with me. And it's usually the person that's taken the time to figure out what I'm up to and understand what I'm up to and frame their value proposition in a way that makes sense to me in the context of what I'm trying to do, in the context of my business. And that's just, yeah, it's impossible to do with the current technology.
Okay.
But with generative AI now, we've been given the opportunity to do more amazing things, right? To condense that research. I mean, the challenge with salespeople is that to truly engage with someone, you have to spend quite a lot of time researching and going through so many data sources and using so many different tools. So we bring that into one place, and we make it really easy for sales reps to understand their customers at various depths, like whether it's a snapshot or whether they want to dive deep into that person and their business.
Do you think there's value in the products that they're using right now?
Well, yeah, I mean, sure. There was where it initially came out, when this whole idea of sales sequencing came out, it was quite effective, and that's why you have companies like Outreach and SalesLoft that have built multi-billion-dollar businesses. But buyers have become desensitized to that kind of communication, mostly because it's so high frequency and the quality of the message is so low, that they have just become desensitized to it.
So you think rather than speaking to more buyers, that sellers need to be more informed and speak to less buyers?
Absolutely. More informed, but what we're trying to do is we're trying to help them be more informed and try to accelerate the process of understanding them so that you can talk to more people but have a high quality discussion.
Right. And do you think you're taking the crafting steps off them that would actually make them great and more appreciative of a buyer by
So
using artificial intelligence or not? Like, well, no one's going to take away your experience of knocking on doors, approaching strangers, slowly improving your ability to communicate, articulate, and debate. Is your product gonna create a problem?
It's a great question. So what we do is we give the seller really in-depth information about who they're talking to so they can have that quality conversation, right? Yes, we do some automation, but what we want to do and what our vision is we don't want to replace the seller. We want to empower them. We want to give them the right information so they can have those quality conversations with their buyers. Now, automation does kill that skill, but automation of the actual conversation itself. And what we're doing is we're helping them engage in that conversation, helping them open that door so that they can flourish in that conversation, and have the knowledge to have that a quality conversation.
Okay. And who's your ideal user?
Salespeople. So we're
any particular type?
I think for us, it's people that do a lot of outreach, sales reps that do a lot of outreach, your BDRs, your SDRs, but also, perhaps mid-market to enterprise reps that require to understand their customers very deeply when they have conversations with them. Those ones that need to break into the C-suite, which is challenging, and help them gather intelligence to be able to have a compelling conversation with the C-suite.
Okay. So those that primarily engage the C-suite of an organization So probably more towards enterprise type sales versus
Yes, but also, the idea
transactional
behind
type.
the idea behind Bella is, we gather this public information to create, a model of the customer, but we also, our vision is to guide a sales rep to gather intelligence within the organization so they can have that conversation at the C-suite level. It's very sort of different to approach, an executive with, public information versus, talking to their staff and actually understanding what the real problem is and gathering intelligence that way, and then presenting that hypothesis of, we've spoken to all of these people, they're all saying, you're having these problems. And here's our hypothesis on how we can help you. So we see it as, gathering intelligence externally and then helping sales reps gather intelligence internally so they can formulate a compelling value proposition.
Okay. What have you got wrong so far in building your business? What's the main thing you've got wrong?
Yeah, it's a great question. Let me have a think about that. Well, I mean, we've been incorporated for just over 2 months. We've been in business for 4. So what problems have we had?
I mean, what have you got wrong?
What have I got wrong?
Mm-hmm.
Been engaging perhaps with the wrong users initially. That's been a bit of a pain that we're working through at the moment, and changing tact.
What was wrong about them?
They weren't doing enough outreach. They were mostly account executives with 360 roles. That outreach is part of what they do, but not everything that they do. They usually rely on a BDR to do that for them, or like inbound leads to do that for them. So for us, we want people that are sort of hardcore outbound salespeople that will, use it a lot more frequently.
Why?
Well, we want to build a product that salespeople actually want and that actually helps them out. And, the more they use it, the more feedback we get, and it helps us calibrate and figure out, what's the right path forward.
And what do you think you got right?
I think the way we started the business, I think is probably, and the way I found my co-founder, I think was the right approach. I
How'd you
started
find
the
him?
bit. Yeah, I started the business as initially as a services business, right? ChatGPT had just come out, and I saw an opportunity to work with small to medium businesses to build, custom ChatGPT applications that would deliver value to them. So I, through my own network, found this guy, this YouTuber that was making videos on, ChatGPT, and I knew he was running a few businesses. And I thought to myself, well, he's making these videos on how to create custom apps, and he's probably not doing anything with all the leads that he's getting. I'm sure people are approaching him and thinking, oh, well, can you help us build this app? And lo and behold, when I spoke with him, that was actually the case. He wasn't doing anything with them. So we started referring them over, and I decided to start reaching out to them. And I found a few projects and I scoped them out. And while I was doing that, I interviewed about 40 people that I think could do the job, that had a little bit of experience with machine learning and large language models. And then when I scoped out this one project, I sent out basically a brief to, the top 6 people that I'd interviewed. And I said, how would you approach this? Got some interesting answers back, but Max, who is now my co-founder, sent me the most impressive answer, seemed to know, exactly what he was talking about. I was really impressed with how he approached it. And I decided to give him the project. We delivered on it. And that's how we quickly got to know each other. And then I spent probably the next 6 months trying to convince him to be my founder and to work with me. And the main way I was able to convince him was to keep bringing projects to him for him to work on and to keep paying him, which I did, and I earned his trust that way. And he was quite skeptical initially because he had a couple of startups in the past and they didn't work out, and he was very skeptical of the commercial founder. He'd been burnt in the past, so it was I guess a trust building exercise, and we managed to build quite a decent business, and that's how it got started.
Right. So became a pirate and found some treasure and shared the booty, huh?
Yeah, absolutely. And I knew that if I wasn't doing that, maybe another pirate would be doing it. And I really liked Max. He was super capable, and that's what drove me. I was like, I need to create something with this guy, because he's brilliant. And yeah, if I keep the business coming, I get him working on the projects that he wants to work on. Yeah.
Very cool. What have you learned so far about yourself?
That I can put up with more shit than I thought I could. Yeah. That I learned that I can bounce back. I can bounce back after hard times pretty quick. And there were so many of them. So many, as a founder, you got so many responsibilities. You have so many ups and downs. And I found that I was able to, quickly recalibrate and keep moving forward.
And do you think you care because you see salespeople as an underdog that you want to help win? Or is there another reason you care?
No, I think you've hit the nail on the head there. Salespeople are, have a certain stigma about them. They look down upon. No one particularly likes them. They can be quite annoying. But what you find is, for the most part, a lot of them are very well intentioned, good people. They're trying to make a living, trying to make something of themselves. So yeah, gives me a lot of joy to help those kinds of people out.
And now that you're sort of trying to help more underdogs, and you're this pirate king type character that's now starting to engage in real pirates like venture capitalists. What's worrying you? What's keeping you up at night?
State of the world, mate. Armageddon. No. In terms of my business, what's keeping me up at night? We're a startup. So for me, I'm like constantly have all sorts of things I need to deal with, all sorts of problems. So I mean that keeps me up, of course, at night, but just trying to achieve what our vision is, to build a solid business and to transform sales for the better. Yeah.
You don't know what worries you.
Perhaps I don't.
Is anything bothering you?
I'm not sure. Maybe I'm just so desensitized to it, man. I probably don't think about it too much, to be honest. I just keep going. I don't know.
And do you think that it's because underdogs don't have time to worry?
Yeah, I think so. I think you're always you're in a sort of inferior position, right? And you're trying to get to that next step. And that requires a lot of your effort. It requires a lot of brain power. And of course, for me personally, I'm so occupied with trying to solve, the problems that I currently got, and solve them, right? I don't dwell on them. I want to solve them. I just don't have time to think about, I'm worried about this or I'm worried about that. All I need to think about is how we're going to solve this and how we're going to move forward towards our vision.
Mm. And do you think underdogs need to worry about time?
What do you mean?
Like at some point, do you stop being an underdog after a certain amount of time? Like do they if they miss the moment, they don't rise to the occasion fast enough? Is that the underdog's biggest dragon? Or is it Goliath itself?
I would say it's more Goliath. If you miss the opportunity, right? I think as an underdog, you should probably be used to missing a few opportunities, right? Um, of course, you don't want that to be the case all the time, and that's why you don't want to stay the underdog either. Um, but yeah, I think
Is the biggest risk to the underdog that they pick the opportunity that's first presented to them because they don't know when the next one will come?
it could be, yeah, that could be it. Um, you're referencing our conversation earlier, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, it could be the case.
Right. You recently mentioned that you felt like you were on a bit of a hero's journey.
Yes.
Why don't you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so I mean, the way I see it is, a hero's journey is going from the ordinary world, stepping into the extraordinary world, going through the trials and tribulations, finding the strength, or yeah, finding the strength to go back to the ordinary world transformed,
Mm.
having learned something to be more enlightened. And I've seen that play out, at various scales,
Mm.
throughout my life. Most recently as a founder, right, going from salesperson to founder, which is, the salesperson is the ordinary world for me, and then stepping into the
Mm.
world of being a founder, um, felt like I was on the hero's journey. And then, meeting the right people, meeting my co-founder, um, meeting some helpers along the way that were wiser than me, that had done it before, um, and that were able to guide me, through the things that I didn't know, because ultimately I was stepping into the unknown. So being able to do that, going through getting our initial customers, building an MVP, and then going to the pitch day, my first ever pitch and first ever fundraising event,
Mm.
um, and then being able to raise that pre-seed round to help us get to the next stage. I felt like that was a complete sort of hero's journey cycle in itself.
Mm.
Um, and
And
yeah, it
did you
wasn't
feel
easy.
it as you were going through it? Did
Oh
you
yeah,
feel?
oh absolutely. I mean, I reacted in in certain ways. I mean, things got really challenging. I mean, I was working, I still am. You know, long days, 12, 16-hour days, and some things work, other things just don't work. And I put a lot of sort of pressure on myself as well. I expect a lot from myself. I'm a bit of a perfectionist at times.
Mm.
So I only expect the best from myself. And when I don't deliver, I can be absolutely brutal to myself. And at that point, I think it was, going into the abyss. I definitely went into the abyss,
Mm.
um, at certain points, while going through that founder's journey, right? And most of that abyss was, self-inflicted. Um, but then
And what
being
was
able
the
to,
dragon you think you conquered in that first cycle?
well, I mean, like going through the process of raising pre-seed with a VC is probably like the dragon, I guess. Um,
Or was it overcoming your internal voice that was
Yeah,
telling you weren't good enough, or it's not good
yeah.
enough?
I think for me, the internal voice was just a bit of doubt because I'd never done it before. So of course, it was unknown to me. I've not been through it. It's like knocking on the first door all over again. Um, I wasn't sure if I had the capability. Um, but I wasn't going to stop. I wasn't going to stop. I was just going to keep knocking on those doors and figure out a way. And I did.
So it was the VC type external dragon that was more of the dragon view. Okay.
Yeah.
Is going through having the hero's journey as a frame or a guide rail provide you relief as a founder?
So it provided me relief.
Yeah, does it help you understand that each of these stages are a step, so eventually they do end?
Yeah.
Or
Well,
does it or does it make it more terrifying?
yeah. I mean, going from founding the business to pre-seed was I see it as sort of like this miniature cycle
Mm.
that happened, and I see it as absolutely necessary. Yeah, it was sure it was
Does it help
unsettling.
you by looking at it that way?
Yeah, it
Does it?
does.
How?
Um, well, because I know that there's an endpoint, and the tough things that I'm going through now, first of all, they're not going to last forever. But second of all, I'm going to figure out a way to make sure that it's not going to be tough forever, and then I'm going to get to I'm going to slay the dragon and save the princess.
Mm.
But it's also unsettling to know that the way I see it is you can see the hero's journey in different scales, and I've described what a sort of smaller scale one looks like. But if you look in the context of, or if I look in the context of my whole life, I'm sure I'm still on the hero's journey. Um,
Mm.
so knowing that there will be a point where I'm in the extraordinary now. I've stepped out of the ordinary for sure, but knowing that I will return to the ordinary, more enlightened, yeah, absolutely makes me feel yeah, it's comforting,
Comfort.
and it's
Mm.
yeah, it's a necessary process.
Does it help you deal with the founder loneliness that people experience?
Um,
Or you
no,
don't have that because you can talk to strangers?
no, I definitely have the loneliness, not in the sense that I don't have people to talk to, but um, perhaps people that don't quite understand. That's where the
Mm.
loneliness comes into play. And I feel like, all right, how can does the hero's journey make me feel any better about that? Or does it influence that in any way? I don't, I don't think so. Um,
Mm.
yeah,
And do you think that your evolution is going to be from underdog to hero?
I think so. I think I'm on that path.
Do you want that job?
The hero's job.
Mm.
I think I'll always be an underdog in some way. I think I'll always step into an arena that I don't know, right? Uh,
Mm. Maybe that's what heroes do.
maybe that's what heroes do. Yeah.
Mm. Um, what what's the next step for your business idea? What are you doing next?
So we've uh, built in some core functionality in place, and we've got some beta users now. So really, the next step is to keep engaging our early adopters, understand, what it is that's going to deliver the most value to them, and building a product around that. So that's really the next step. Hiring more people, and getting our product to public launch. That's really
Mm.
the focus for us right now. Product, engaging with customers, and of course, we need investment to make that happen as well.
And if you could wave your magic wand in 3 years, what do you think is happening with your customers that you're providing value to? What do you think's going on? How would you describe that story?
How do you mean?
In 3 years' time, your product's doing what it says it's going to do. What's happening to these underdog salespeople? In a perfect world, what have you helped them achieve? What
Well,
value have you created for them?
we've helped them become better at engaging, being more efficient in their roles, being more effective in their roles, having better quality conversations, opening more opportunities for the business they're currently working for, but also giving them the skill that a skill that they can go off and take and apply elsewhere. I think that's ultimately what we want to leave them with.
Mhm. So you don't just want to maximize their ability to earn. You want to actually maximize their ability to learn how to do this properly.
Well, that's the thing, right? Right now, Bella does some automations, right? But we don't want to just automate tasks. We want to help salespeople think about their prospects in a certain way that's going to help them engage with them more effectively and be better at making deals, right? And I think, but by providing insights to them, by guiding them in how to engage effectively, and I think that process within itself, we hope that even when they don't use Bella, they're able to take some learnings from using that and apply it to what they're doing in the future and get quality results out of it.
Right. So it sounds like you'd like to have a tool that salespeople use to earn while they learn, really,
Yeah,
or
precisely.
learn and earn at the same time.
Yeah, precisely. So, on one hand, Bella's doing things for them. On the other hand, Bella is teaching them how to do things effectively. And that way, doing things for them, helping them get instant results, but also teaching them how to do things better.
Right. And is your AI agent, is it the underdog like Mike Tyson, or is it the underdog coach like Customato?
I'd say it's a bit of both, actually. Tyson in the sense that, it's going out there and dealing some solid punches and winning some titles. Customato in the
So
sense
in a
that,
in a in a sense, your idea is an underdog itself.
yeah, I guess you could say that, yeah.
Mm.
Um, elevating, elevating the sales process, getting away from this, transactional, high frequency, unpersonalized engagement to, true engagement, to true salesmanship.
Right. And do you think, you're the underdog that can, with Bella, that can actually defeat the American Goliath's opinion on sales, which is highly transactional, highly shooting as many arrows as you can? Do you think you're the guy to do
Uh, I believe that I can do it.
it?
I believe I will be able to do it. Um, we we look at sales differently, and we're in a culture that is different. I mean, if you look at the US, there's an endless sea of businesses and people that you can sell to. So burning one bridge doesn't matter so much. Whereas here in Australia, it's quite different, right? We don't have as many businesses. Conversations and relationships are incredibly important.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't want to burn those opportunities because you don't have as many as those in the US do. And I think that mindset, applying that mindset to Bella is what can help us get there. Can we compete with these US Goliaths? I'm not sure. Our strategy is we want to focus on sort of the non-US market initially. Of course, US customers that are more than welcome to use our platform. But our focus is to really nail these key markets, which is ANZ, APAC, UK, and prove it out there. And, you know, perhaps it will resonate in the US, perhaps it will work really effectively in the US. And in which case, you know, maybe we'll get some adoption there too.
Okay. I really like the sentiment of there's not enough bridges to burn, so therefore you have to get better at maintaining them.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, it's you know, Australia's a small place, so you know, you
And
make
do you
a
think
good
you're going to
impression.
win?
I believe we're going to win, yeah, and I'll do everything in my power to win. Absolutely.
Right. Is there anything that's been unsaid that you'd like to say?
Um, well, look, for anyone that I guess is watching this and you know, our vision, our missions resonated with them, you know, we'd love for them to get in touch, and talk with us and see how we can help them out and help them engage with their prospects better. So that's the only thing I can think of.
Never going to stop selling, are you, Danilo?
APC, always be closing.
Okay, mate. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much, Tom.